I'm speaking to you today during one of the most troubling times in American history. For more than 2 months, we have battled the public health crisis caused by COVID-19, and we are making progress. Based on science and data, this past Monday, we started phase 1 of reopening the county. It is a first step. It is heartening that some businesses are starting to make their way to recovery and that more activities are now allowed. But restrictions are still in place to keep us safe. If the numbers improve, we will be able to lift more restrictions in phase 2 of our recovery. You can look at what we're tracking on the county website. I know we're all eager to resume our activities and lives, but if too much is allowed too soon, we risk a spike in the number of cases. We are proceeding with caution. There is a second crisis, an existential crisis, that has been at the front of the news and in our hearts across the nation. This is a deeply troubling time in our society. Our failure to deal with more than 400 years of racism has pushed racial tensions to a boiling point yet again. The murder of George Floyd by a police officer in Minnesota has sparked outrage, protests, and demonstrations around the nation. We have had peaceful demonstrations in Montgomery County this week. I understand and empathize with the hurt, anger, and fear expressed by community members. But here in Montgomery County, we have grappled with the deaths of Robert White and Finan Berhe, and we know that these losses have devastated the families of these men and our community. We also know that there is more than one incident where officers persisted in wrong behavior while others stood by. While we know that most police officers do not commit these acts, it remains that some do. We know we need to change and address the decades and centuries of institutional and structural racism that goes well beyond our police departments as well. In Montgomery County, the school-to-prison pipeline is actually something we talk about. And injustice and inequality exist in housing, healthcare, and economic opportunity as well. Police incidents provide the most visceral images of the problem, but the myriad of these other problems, while they don't get the headlines, are at the root of persistent inequality. And it exists with COVID-19 as well. This pandemic is infecting and killing Black and brown people at a much higher rate, and their communities are feeling the economic impacts more strongly. We are facing a tidal wave of evictions, foreclosures, and loan defaults, which will have disproportionate impacts. And these burdens are made worse by a president who would rather beat back protesters than beat back the injustice. The image of a president that seems to be waiting for a fight is not what we need. Calmer heads need to prevail and be willing to examine what has gone so wrong and what needs to be done so all people can actually believe that they have equal access to the American dream. We may not be responsible for all the wrongs that have occurred, but we must find a way to help address them. Our tools are limited at the county level, but we will use them. We will engage the community to address policing issues and other issues like housing, economic opportunity, and health, including mental health. The fact is that a divided society hurts all of us. It saps us of our humanity, and a large portion of our population has been prevented from developing to their full potential. And that has robbed all of us of sources of knowledge and skill from which all would benefit. Together, we must address institutional racism and work toward a more just community.